So if you follow the internet, you would know that there were a lot of swatings in the last couple of weeks. I remember seeing people blaming Infinity Chan for it, and the farms. Both of these websites, if you try to suggest something like this, you would immediately get banned. So I don't know, like, where is this internet mythos happening? Like they legitimately believe that these websites have no moderation whatsoever just because like people can say the N word. Um, they're more like 2016 era internet. Like they're not completely unmoderated, right? They allow certain things that you would not be able to do on other websites, sure, but they still have to follow the law. Like stuff like death threats or, in this case, encouraging harm to other people, it's still banned. So I don't think like the problem with the swatting is due to websites on the internet. I think the problem, and this is my take as a Romanian, is that the United States has a paramilitary force that has no connections to that particular community. I mean, in the case of Styx Hexenhammer, he is lucky that he lives in Vermont, and the police actually does have connections to the community, and they probably happen to know who lives there, and it's like, well, this is the house of those peaceful residents, so they gave a call beforehand. And when they found out that nothing happened, then they said, well, we're still going to send some officers in to check. And it wasn't the case of knocking down the door and throwing a complimentary flashbang into the baby crib, as it happened in other places, or shooting the person's dog. And, you know, and I think, like, this is the difference between the United States and other countries. Now, there are a lot of positive things about the United States, but surely you can criticize, and unlike a communist, I like to give concrete examples. The police in Romania, for instance, is actually connected to the neighborhood, to the community, as much as possible. Like, you're not going to know every single person that lives everywhere, but especially in towns and smaller places, like, they do know who happens to live in that area. So when you call them and you tell them that, you know, something awful has happened, like this, there's a hostage situation, they're like, well, hold on a little bit, that's where Mr. Dobson lives. You know, like, Mr. Dobson is like 85-year-old, he's not going to take any hostages. Or they will know, well, this is where that streamer twat lives. I mean, he probably plays Call of Duty and he's got a couple of people who have vendetta against him, so this isn't the first time it happened. I'm actually curious if it's the same with Tim Pool, because I know, like, he's probably in the World Guinness Book of Records now. But the reality is that it's normal for the cops to come in and talk to you like a normal person rather than just break the door and shoot the dog, right? In the case of Styx, he wants to press charges. He wants to see the person that did this spend life in prison. I don't know if the punishment for it is life in prison, but it should definitely be severe. This should be discouraged. The punishment should be severe, not just so that the person can learn a lesson, but it should also be severe enough to dissuade other people from doing it. Because it is definitely unacceptable. This is not just an internet prank, it's not a joke. You're not just messing with the guy itself, you're messing with his family. This is another American thing, you know, where they say, well, if you swat someone, it's like attempted murder. And you know, while I do understand the argument, the question should also come. It's like, well, why is the SWAT doing that? Like, if there is an actual hostage situation, okay? Like, there is an actual event where a person takes hostages, and the SWAT has to go in. Like, shouldn't they be able to discern between hostages and bad guys? Like, isn't this part of their job? I know that I'm sounding a little bit too naive here, and maybe that I'm, you know, trying to think about scenarios from movies, but surely it would be expected that the SWAT is professional enough so that when it does go into a situation that there is no risk, there is no harm, they wouldn't just shoot innocent people. And unfortunately, I do know that there have been cases where individuals have been victims of this type of criminal behavior, and the SWAT came in and actually shot innocent people. So this is what I would think is also worthy of a conversation. And again, like I said in the beginning of the video, I do believe that this is not okay due to it being a paramilitary organization that has no connections or ties to that particular community. But if it's not out of the way, it's weird to see Styx being swatted. I mean, Styx is a very non-controversial figure. I mean, yeah, sure, like, his takes may upset and offend certain individuals on the left, but he does his best in order to stay out of drama. He does his best in order not to be antagonistic towards individuals. Like, he usually talks about ideas, or if he talks about the person, it's a public political figure. Like he doesn't just talk about, like, some random individual off the internet, right? So it is interesting that even what Styx is doing is enough to get people so deranged that they're going to try to swat him. And he did have a really good point in his video where he said that the Christians never did this to him, right? So we're talking about the Bush era, where the Christians were at their strongest when it comes to political influence. And Styx was a Satanist. Like, he was going out of his way in order to try and be antagonistic and disrespectful to the way of life of these people, right? Like, if you tell a leftist that you disagree with his belief system, like, let's say if he identifies with certain pronouns and you misgender them, I mean, they go into a rage and they will say that you're taking away their human rights. Now, when it's about a Christian who has also a certain lifestyle, and maybe he chooses to give up certain pleasures in life by fasting, by having abstinence, and so on and so forth, when you tell that Christian that his God isn't real, that he believes in a fairy tale, and that his entire worldview and his entire lifestyle is for nothing, they do get upset, but apparently not enough to the point where the leftists are getting upset. And that's what Styx was pointing out, that I definitely think that's interesting. But he does want to press charges. Apparently the call is recorded, and he wants to file an investigation. Styx does have, like, a large enough community to try and get to the bottom of this. I mean, 500,000 subscribers only on one platform isn't something to scoff on. And take into account when the internet channels it's in their autism, they can find out what a flag is based on the flight patterns of airplanes and stuff. And I do think this is a common enough unifier for many people on the internet to do a little bit of activism and find out who did this. Service to the community, huh? But anyway, next year is going to be very interesting. If Styx actually plans to take this through, it's going to make some really interesting revelations. I'm generally curious, like, what is the type of person that does something like this? Like, I don't have any friends or family that would do something even remotely to this level. So I'm curious, like, how does a person that thinks this is acceptable, like, how do they think? What are their interests? What are their hobbies? Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.